Gosh, there's lots of things I like about it, but probably my favourite thing is when I meet children and they just see me as Robin Hood. Normally as an actor you want to remind people that you're just an actor, but when I meet kids and they're like, Robin Hood, and I'm like, yeah, I am. Yes, I am, and it's real. Because I remember meeting Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, when I was a kid, and he had a big effect on me, and he was exactly what a child wants a kind of TV movie hero to be, and it made me think that's kind of how I'd like to do it. So it's nice to just suspend disbelief for a little bit and just be that character for them for a little while. Oh, and the action figure. That's brilliant. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Do you guys pull pranks on the set of Once Upon a Time?
Sometimes. I mean, we joke around a lot and we laugh a lot and we're silly and goofy quite a lot. But pranks, pranks are good on a short-term thing like a movie, because you get someone, they get you back, it's all fun. But when you're on a show that shoots 9 months out of the year, you get halfway through the season, you put cellophane on somebody's toilet. They that's not funny. Okay? That's really not funny. I'm Captain Peter. So yeah, we kind of avoid pranks, but it's more just silly, jovial friend stuff. But we do have a lot of fun. You have to, because sometimes the days are very long, and everyone kind of wants to get home to their family and stuff. So sometimes just making people laugh kind of makes the day go a little quicker. Thank you.
And we'll go right over here.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for coming out to San Francisco. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, what was the hardest part for you about switching between regular Robin Hood to Wish Realm Robin Hood in your acting style?
Well, what's weird is that trying to figure out, okay, I'm sort of playing the same guy, but it's not. So you're sort of trying to figure out how different do I make him? I mean, everything is informed by the script. You read the script and you get an instant feeling of what you are naturally going to do with the character or the scene. So the script is the guide. But they sort of told me, look, he's going to be a different version, and therefore, he never had a son. He never kind of had that redemption that the original Robin had. The original Robin had been on a journey, and we alluded, or the writers, I should say, alluded to the fact that he wasn't always a good guy. And so I imagine that backstory of him being kind of probably rich, arrogant, spoiled, not very nice, and he learned some hard lessons along the way, and that's what made him the man that he was. So I just took that guy, but without the lessons. So he's just kind of doesn't care for kids, doesn't really care about helping other people. He's just, life's tough, I'm in it for myself. So that made it interesting to sort of play a more selfish, a more kind of, I don't want to say bitchy, but just more, I don't give a damn Robin. It's sort of taking away all the bits that I like of the original character, but it was just also fun to kind of play the bad guy, because bad guys always get better lines. I don't know why the universe is constructed that way, but it's hard to be good with a snappy outline. You know what I mean? It's normally the villain that gets to say something delicious and funny and wicked at the end. So that bit was fun. It was nice getting to indulge the dark side of Robin along there. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question's kind of along the lines of saying that the alternate version of Robin, did you wish they kind of took it into a little bit darker, even farther? It kind of seemed like they were going to pair him with Evil Queen, and you were going to really cause some mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, in answer to your question, I would have liked to have seen, I mean, anything where you delve deeper into a character and you find out more about them is always interesting for an actor, and I think hopefully interesting for an audience. But yeah, I mean, when original Robin died, I was under the impression that would be it. I didn't have any plan or intention to return to the show, and obviously the reaction to that character dying was a little more prominent than many of the producers had expected, and I've said many times that I'm very grateful to the fans that really made their voices heard on social media, because it's just lovely to know that you played a character that had an effect on people that they cared about. And so that I believe the writers have said that their idea to bring Robin back was nothing to do with that. It was just because they had a good idea for the story. But I think that fans making their voices heard does have an impact nowadays. That didn't happen 20 years ago, so we didn't have social media, but now producers and writers can literally see what the fans of the show are thinking. And of course, everybody wants to make a show that pleases their fans. So I like to think that the fans had quite a bit to do with coming back. So yes, I'm glad that they delved into it. It would have been more interesting to have gone further, but the plan for me was just to come back to do 5 episodes. So it's difficult to expand too much in that space of time, especially when there's so many other characters in the show. But it was nice to come back, and it was lovely to be back with all my castmates and to be back in the back to my family. And I really love it up there. So, but you never know. I mean, it's Once Upon a Time, and season 6 ended with Robin proposing to Regina. So I don't know whether we may or may not see more of that story unfold. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. And continuing on that line of questioning there, do you believe that, it's actually kind of a two-parter, that Robin Hood will have had or still has more of an arc to go? And at the same time, do you get any input, get to give any input to the writers as well, along what happens?
I'll answer the second part first. No influence, no suggestions, no. Hey, what about no? Just no.
Good to know.
You're an actor, just act. It's really difficult, I think, for showrunners and producers when you've got such a big kind of universe like the Once Upon a Time universe. To get all of those storylines, to create them, to find ways of tying them up, and making TV shows and movies is often very collaborative, and sometimes it's the showrunners and the writers want it to be the way they want it to be. And I think as an actor, you have to respect that process. You can offer your suggestions, but if they say thanks, but we kind of we know what we're doing, you kind of have to know your place. I don't mean that in a facetious way, but you have to kind of know how best to serve the production. And with Once Upon a Time, the best way to serve it is to do what's on the page.
Do they clue you in to what may be coming?
Yeah, I mean, with certain storylines like the fact that Robin Hood was going to get the Wicked Witch pregnant without his knowledge, they did call me and tell me that that was going to happen.
Some of these things.
And I was like, wow, that's going to go down well. But again, as I say, it's not my place to tell these extraordinarily clever, talented writers how to run their worldwide phenomenon show. I'm just an actor. So, of course we all have our thoughts and feelings, and sometimes we think, oh, what a great idea, and sometimes we don't. But it's not really... My feeling is, if you don't like the way a show is constructed or run, that's okay, but maybe keep that to yourself, and then go and create your own show. You know what I mean? So, as I say, I think it's really important, as somebody who's a writer, aspiring producer, director, when I write something or create something, it's got a lot of thought has gone into it, a lot of planning. And sometimes, I'm always open to I would always be open to another actor's suggestion, because my feeling is best idea wins. But at the same time, you have to respect the fact that a writer or a team of writers have been spending months or, a very long time creating that plot. So coming in and offering your 2 cents sometimes isn't as helpful as just turning up and giving your best reading of that line. Often in comedy, a writer will say, please do it exactly as it's written, because we all talked about it in the writer's room, and this is how the line sounds best. If you paraphrase it, you change it slightly, it might not get a laugh, and then the writer doesn't get to know whether that line really does work or whether it's because you tampered with it. So it's kind of important to serve the writing, and if you feel that you can't do that, become a writer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
How did you feel when you were playing the part of Robin Hood?
Sometimes tired, sometimes hungry, sometimes constricted in those tight leather pants, but most of all pretty happy. It's a great honour to be able to play a character that is as well known as Robin Hood, and it's also a character that's lived throughout the centuries as a sort of token of what is good. The idea of somebody who steals from the rich to give to the poor, even though stealing is wrong, sometimes rich people need to be stolen from. frankly, there's only a small portion of them, and they seem to have all the cash. And then there's a lot of us who are, under 9 feet of water right now. So I think the idea of Robin Hood resonates today as much as it did when people started singing songs about it in the 12th century. So I feel very honoured that I get to play Robin Hood, and I'll always sort of have very happy, fond memories of getting to play him. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome. Hi. If you weren't Robin Hood, which character would you be and why?
The Wicked Witch. Because I just hate public transport, and a broom just seems to make everything so much easier, I mean, I don't know if I can get my wife and my son on a broom back to Burbank this afternoon, but I'd be willing to give it a try. We are asked this question quite a bit, and obviously it's always interesting to hear what an actor would rather do, but I think all of us kind of feel that we were quite rightly cast in the roles that we were given, all of the actors, I think, are phenomenal choices for the parts that were written. So as much as Hook had some really meaty stories, you kind of as an actor go, oh, I'd like a crack at that. I don't think anyone could play Hook in the way Colin does, or in the same way Bobby plays Gold or Lana plays the Evil Queen. So I feel very lucky that I got Robin Hood, because I did meet on the show in the very first season with the producers to play the Huntsman, and obviously that role ended up being played by Jamie Dornan, and I was offered another show at the time, so I went with that. It died a death, it didn't get picked up, and then Once Upon a Time became a phenomenon, and I was like, damn it. Little did I know, fate had other plans. I was going to be in the show later on, and in a role that I think was more suited to me. So I tried to sort of enjoy the precious present and not think about what could have been or what might have been, Thank you.
Thank you.
So I watched the show for a long time, and I guess I've always just wondered, do you guys actually eat the food at Granny's, or is it just all
No. Because prop food, even if it looks tasty on television, is not normally edible. For things that look like a camera, sometimes you have to spray them with stuff so that they don't, like if a pie is particularly shiny, you have to spray hairspray on it so it takes the shine down. So no, it's wise not to eat prop food, especially the prop food from Granny's. Some of those pies sort of predate the Nixon era, so probably wiser to just, maybe have a snack on the way to work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. So, Robin Hood is one of my favorite characters on Once Upon a Time, and I attribute that solely to your way of portraying him, because he's also one of my favorite characters in literature and movies. And I love Robin's and the Evil Queen's relationship. I love how it evolves and how their chemistry just seems so natural, and I was wondering if that was something that you and Lana worked on, or if it just kind of organically happened.
It just organically happened. I think you can't really manufacture chemistry. Everyone knows, whatever your favourite movies are, your favourite TV shows, your favourite TV or movie couples, you love them because of whatever it is that's between them on screen. And the funny thing is, there are some very famous movie and TV couples that were great on screen together, but actually hated each other behind the scenes. So there's no real rhyme or reason to it. The thing with me and Lana is we got along from day one. She was one of the first people to welcome me to the show. She's an incredibly professional actress and a very kind-hearted, decent person. And so it's not hard to like her. It wasn't hard to get along with her, but it did seem, maybe not obvious to us, but we seemed to recognise in each other that there was something in the way that we were interacting that kind of felt right. But you don't know that. It's only when you hear back from the audience that they like that chemistry that you go, oh, so it's not just us that feel it, it's the audience that is getting it. But they also constructed some great scenes where there was a lot of pushing and pulling and will they, won't they, and stuff. And that again, that's testament to the writing. They gave us the opportunity to play those scenes. So, but I got especially lucky with Lana. The fact that we got along so well, and we also share a lot of views just about the world. And I think when you agree with somebody about your worldview, other things fall into place much easier. So yeah, I will always be very grateful that she was the person I got to partner up with, because yeah, it's a really memorable part of my career now. I think the Robin Regina thing will be with me for a long time. I certainly hope so.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So my question for you, I'm a big fan of the show, especially Robin Hood. I was wondering, was there any kind of training you had to take on to become this character, or any new skills you had to pick up as the character developed?
No, I mean, obviously playing Robin Hood, people often ask about the archery aspect. People are always really disappointed to know that I'm not a great archer. In fact, I've told this story many times, but on the first day of filming, I was so preoccupied with how to walk, how to talk, how to kind of bring this iconic guy to life that I forgot about the bow and arrow. And just didn't do any research whatsoever about that, because I was thinking about so many other things other than that. And lucky for me, on the first day of filming, I had to jump off a window ledge and onto a thing and then pull down a hood and say Robin Hood and all of that. And I was just thinking about it, because it's kind of like saying Bond, James Bond. You want to be sure that you're going to do it right, and you know if you can get it right or if you don't. So I was so worried about that literally, 5 minutes before we filmed, the prop guy came over and said, "Here's your bow and arrow." And I was like, and so I'm standing there kind of looking like I would if I was trying to mend a car, clueless, and this very nice woman who was a unit photographer came over and said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I was like, "No." And she said, "Well, I'm an archer in my spare time." And I was like, "Of course you are." And she actually just gave me a really quick crash course in how not to look like an idiot with a bow and arrow. And if you want to know, it's 3 fingers to the cheek and arm, elbow, up, and just a few other, basic things like that. And I'm forever grateful to that woman whose name I don't know, because she kind of saved me that day. But no, in terms of special training and things like that, no, in every job with the character, you're kind of learning a little bit about the character and about how best to play him as you go along. But no, I mean, this was just another. The biggest challenge was trying to make the guy a real, living, breathing guy. Robin Hood, if he did exist, wouldn't have thought of himself as an icon. I mean, he might have found that amusing, but he wouldn't. I don't think icons think of themselves that way. That's why they're icons. So no special things learned. Just maybe how to hold the bow and arrow without looking like an idiot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which character do you identify with the most?
Now I like your first question. Which kind of character do you like? Let me take a stab. The Evil Queen.
Oh.
Which one do you identify with? I like the people on the spot. Alright, I'll go first. Believe it or not, I most identify with Robin Hood, because I kind of share a similar worldview. That's not to say that I go around stealing all the time, and I don't live in the forest with a bunch of men, but I do kind of. There does seem to be similarities in the way that Robin Hood's character was sort of built and the way that I feel about things. Mainly just a sense of justice, really, is the simplest way to put it. There's a lot of things going on in the world at the moment that get me very upset and very angry. There's a lot of injustice in the world. There's a lot of inequality in the world. And I just think, 2017, when we're talking about moving to Mars and Elon Musk is building super tunnels under the ground, I think the idea that we can't get along or recognise that we're all the same and all just need help from time to time, sort of saying one is better than the other or left or right is superior, that drives me crazy, because I just think we need each other now more than ever, just to make sure our planet doesn't completely melt down. So the Robin Hood kind of ideal of doing what's right, even if it's not always technically the right way to do it, stealing from the rich to give it to the poor, for example, is something that I kind of agree with, and I think probably so does Bernie Sanders. So maybe Bernie Sanders is actually the real Robin Hood. Thanks for your question. Hello.
Hi. So I really love Once Upon a Time, and I think you do an amazing job as Robin. But I'm wondering if you have any fun stories of stuff that happens behind the scenes. or your time with your fellow co-stars?
Oh gosh, I mean, most of it was fun. I mean, there were days when it's cold and wet and you're on the side of a mountain in a couple of inches of mud. That, you know, it was like work, but most of the day, most of the, you know, the entire shoot, or the 4 years or so that I was on it, was fun. You know, it's lovely to get to work with a bunch of people that you really love and get along with. But yeah, there's lots of little things. They're not like fall over funny, but they were kind of funny at the time. Whether it was rehearsing the dance with Lana, or I think in the same episode where I get stabbed by someone in Camelot and then I'm lying on a bed, sort of dying. And you know, if you're in a room, you're laid out on a table, and you've got Colin and Josh in the room, and you're laying there pretending to be dead. Of course, they're going to try and do something to make you laugh. And they're both very funny guys. Or even, I don't know if it was, I think it was a different episode, but Lana had to come running over. I was dead again, nearly dead or dying. You know, sort of a cadaver could have done my job, I think. But she came running over to see if I was okay, and immediately leant on my belly, and I was like, I think I was mostly unconscious at the time. But there's just those little things that kind of make you laugh throughout the day, and that's when, you know, they're the bits that are the best bits of being an actor. You know, you're doing a job that they're paying you for, and yet you're to make believe and have fun with people you love. So yeah, it's a fun job.
Thank you.
Oh, hello. Why didn't you get dressed up?
I was wondering, are there any characters or fairy tales that you hope to see introduced in this new season that they are pretty much starting from scratch?
Well, I know a little bit about what's in the new season, so
What can you legally say?
I tell you, but I'd have to kill you. No, I obviously can't say anything, but it's a very interesting take. It's going to be a very new kind of season and a very new kind of show from the one you're used to. But I think it'll be exciting. I know that Lana and Bobby and Colin are really excited about the new stories that they're breaking and stuff. Wait, what was the original question?
Are there any characters or fairy tales you hope they will weave into this next season?
I think that they have used, you know, quite a great deal of certainly Disney and fairy tale characters. I don't know how many more there are to. I know that they're bringing back a particular character in a different way. I won't say who, but so there's a lot of really new, interesting, different, exciting things. But again, I wouldn't presume to tell the guys, even in my opinion here, who they should or shouldn't use. They've got a great sense of when to use a character and for how long to use it and stuff. But I think because Disney now own childhood as a whole, they've got Marvel, they've got Star Wars, they've got everything. If this show is to run for 20, 30 years, it'd be interesting to see them expand on their portfolio and maybe bring in some Star Wars characters, maybe bring in some superheroes, you know. It'd be an interesting kind of almost Simpsons meets the Family Guy kind of thing. You're like, oh, that's not going to work, but I'm good at watch because I want to find out what happens. So, yeah, I think that they've got, you know, as I said, because Disney own everything, they've got quite a large portfolio to choose from. So it just depends on the direction the guys want to go. But I hope it runs for many, many years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was it cool getting to have like a little band of dudes that are like in your control all the time?
Wait, who do you think I am?
I mean, like, that's a merry man. You can just.
I'm not the Wizard of Oz. I was the Merry Men, of course. Well, yeah, well, I sort of think of the Merry Men as a sort of independent group of freedom fighters that have just nominated an arcane. You know, I think within the Merry Men, he'd like to think of there being no rank, even though I'm in charge. Just, I mean, on a practical note, filming with the Merry Men was fun, you know, because they're a really nice bunch and really got to work together for quite a few years, especially Jason Burkhardt, who made a little job. But yeah, I don't think I or Robin would ever kind of think of it from the point of view of, I have some men under my control. Quick, to the forest where we were all dressed in leather and unsuspicious behaviours. I didn't really think of it from that point of view, but certainly it was an awful lot of fun to film with those guys because, like I said, nearly every member of the cast was a joy to be with. So, yeah, thank you for making me laugh. Hi.
Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you.
I was hoping you could answer a question I have about Hollywood. It relates to an episode of Timeless that you did.
Oh, okay, I'll do my best.
In which you play a fantastic Ian Fleming who convinces an American woman who doesn't speak German to try and convince a man to follow her out of the room without speaking the language. And I found it to be a really intense, dramatic moment. And those don't really happen a lot in terms of big action Hollywood explosions and other things like that. So I wanted to know how much of that suspense and drama is actually there on set that you can feel, and how much of that is done in post with the music. Maybe you guys are actually just having a laugh.
Well, both. Me, Abigail Spencer's really fun, and she loves singing and dancing, and I find that that's a really good way to keep your energy up and keep the set light. I like goofing around and singing and messing around like that, and she's the same, so we got on straight away, which obviously really helps, and she's extraordinarily talented, so that really helps. But funnily enough, that I remember the scene that you're talking about, and I remember filming that and actually feeling that sense of tension, and I was in it. I really kind of was feeling it. Some days you have to pretend. You hopefully technique takes over and you can still present to the audience a version of. And then sometimes, for whatever reason, whether it's good writing, maybe it's a great person to work opposite, or maybe it's just on that day you're feeling it. I remember, because we're in a room sort of like this, there's big swastikas everywhere, you're in a German Nazi outfit. These things have an effect on your psyche, on your sensibility. And, for a second, when you get it right with acting, there's a sort of form of self-hypnosis where you forget that you're... Sorry, it's okay, that's my son. Don't heckle Daddy. With that particular scene, I really kind of felt it. I was like, shit, can you imagine? You're here. Ian Fleming was a spy and did do kind of things like that. And if you can kind of put yourself into that feeling of what would it feel like to be in a room full of... No, I said, what would it feel like to be in a room full of... How would any of us know in this day and age? It's such an antiquated notion, fascism. That looking around and allowing the environment, the set, the costumes and everything to kind of get into you and thinking, make a wrong move and they'll kill you. If you can get that in you, your heart rate goes up and your breathing changes, and that sometimes makes for a better performance. So I just loved every single second of shooting that show. It was one of the most enjoyable characters I've had the opportunity to play with, and I just wanted more of it. I wanted to do it more, and even when I found out how I wanted to talk, because I listened to Fleming, some of his interviews, and he spoke in such a posh way that if I'd have played it that way, it just wouldn't have worked, not for an American audience, because it's sort of almost like sort of Prince Charles, and that lends itself to not sounding masculine, so you have to make an adjustment about how I'm going to make this guy sound, because I tend to work from the voice outwards. Once I know how he's going to sound, then I kind of know how he's going to walk, and I know how he's going to move and stuff like that. And so with Fleming, I as always started with the voice, and then of course there was also a lot of learning German, which is incredibly difficult to learn. But in answer to your question, on that particular day, with that particular scene, I really did feel the tension and loved it, and had a great director that I'd worked with on Once Upon a Time many times. And I had a great writer that was really invested and on the set, willing to talk over the lines and everything. So it just made for a really satisfying artistic experience. So I'm very, very thankful to Timeless, and so glad they got picked up again. Thank you.
Hello. I was kind of wondering if, kind of getting away from just Once Upon a Time.
Oh, please.
And what kind of roles do you enjoy kind of playing the most in terms of not roles but types of, like we saw you on a taping of The Class.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. And do you like the live audience, sitcom kind of style, the dramatic roles, whether they're like Robin Hood, sorry, I had to bring it to me, I guess. Ian Fleming, more of, a historical figure.
Do you know, they're like, it's like ice cream, just because on one given day you might fancy a chocolate ice cream, but that doesn't mean strawberry and vanilla are great too. Do you know what I mean? There are days when doing comedy, I just think, why would I want to do anything else? Especially in front of a live audience. It's sort of like an amazing adrenaline rush. I very briefly was a pop singer, and I would go out to big crowds, and little girls would scream and things like that, and that's an adrenaline rush. But I found that wasn't as exciting as the feeling you get when you get a great laugh. Because you kind of have to earn a laugh. Whereas being a pop star, you just stand on stage and they're programmed to scream and you're programmed to go, ooh. Whereas a laugh, you have to put something out to get something back. And so doing comedy in front of a live audience is definitely one of my favourite things. But like I said, with regards to playing Ian Fleming, you get the same kind of buzz when you've got an amazing piece of writing, and particularly with that episode, I loved that Jim Barnes wrote it, and I just had the great lines that just felt like ice cream, It was so gratifying to say them, and I remember there's a scene in a barn where I kind of reveal, playing Fleming, who I am, and Matt pulls a gun and I pull a gun, and I'm like, put it away or something, and I was like, for a second when they said cut, I was like, I'm James Bond. I'm feeling, there's that, your heart rate goes up, you feel excited, you feel that kind of euphoric sense that you get from a roller coaster or something. So neither one is better or worse than the other, it's just on any given day. It's lovely to be able to do both, and that's why I think I'll always try and go back and forth between doing drama and comedy, because after you've done a long stint on a drama, you kind of, I think I did 7 years of comedy in a row, I was like, okay, it's time to go and do something serious. I need my meat and potatoes before I have my dessert. So, but now after doing, almost completely just drama for the last few years, the right comedy project would certainly be something I can take a good look at. Thank you for your question.
Okay.
Hello, love.
Hi. Rebecca Mader imitated Robin Hood 3 weeks ago, and
she did what?
Rebecca imitated Robin Hood.
She did?
Yeah, and it was very funny. So I want to give you a chance to imitate Zelena for revenge. Can you do it?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the difference between Bex and Zelena. Bex I can do quite easily, but Zelena and Bex are two very different creatures.
Do both.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of little idiosyncrasies that Bex does. Oh, that's wicked. That's sort of Bex. But Zelena is more like, I'm going to destroy you if it's the last thing I do. Excellent. Hello.
Hey. I have a question that's in 2 parts. First part is, do you like going to conventions, and have you any really funny stories from conventions? And the second part is, some of the actors like sometimes going incognito in a cosplay to a convention when they're not guest starring. So would you do that, and what cosplay would you do?
Oh gosh, alright. Well, I'll do the last bit first. I haven't done that, but I'm not sort of at that fame level where I kind of need to. I can kind of be going for and people like, hey, I'm like, hey. But if you're, I was talking to Daniel Radcliffe about this, and he, like always, he's a bit of a nerd and a geek and likes this stuff too, but being Harry Potter, you just can't, you cause a stampede. So he told me that he dressed up in a Spider-Man costume and walked around a convention, I can't remember which one it was, and a few people were like, oh yeah, Spider-Man, can I get a picture? He's like, So lots of people actually, if you've got a picture of you with Spider-Man, it might be Daniel Radcliffe. So I know that does happen, I haven't done it. But yeah, I love coming to conventions. I'm a people person, and it's, you make a TV show like once, you know that it's going out to a wide audience, but often you don't get to meet them. But because this phenomenon of conventions is growing and growing and growing, I don't even know how many I've done, but I always travel with my family, and we get to visit new cities and meet new people, and I love them. I really enjoy them. and so do they. But yeah, funny stories. There's lots. Some of them I can't talk about here, but yeah, a lot of them are rated. People often just, are very sweet and sometimes ask very strange questions or give strange gifts and things like that. But it's all part of the kind of trifle that is coming to conventions. But yeah, long may they continue because I'm really enjoying it, and this one's been especially fun.
What is the strangest thing that you've gotten from a fan? If you can say that.
Pubic hair. Sorry, but you pressed it. I'm telling you to go. I said it was alright. I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't back away. So that, but yeah, but that, that was very sweet of them.
Like a bouquet of...
It's more like a sachet. I got a little bit of a shock, not gonna lie. But that was that person's way of expressing themselves. Maybe they thought that I had onset alopecia and some assistance, I don't know. I hope it's grown back. But yeah, so sometimes, I'm trying to avoid that. Yeah, odd things sometimes. People express themselves in very different ways. A card is preferable, with nothing in it except writing. But yeah, listen, we've got a lot of people on the planet and we all express ourselves differently. I wouldn't suggest if you're a fan of anyone doing that. There are better ways, I think. But yeah, so that stuff happens. And I just thought I'd share that with you.
Hello.
So, hi. You mentioned how, like you said, Disney now owns childhood, including Star Wars, which then made me curious. Is that a franchise you'd ever want to be a part of? And if so, would you rather play a Sith or a Jedi?
That's a very good question. Anyone who knows me knows I'm an absolute Star Wars fanatic, so of course I'd literally be third stormtrooper on the right. Don't care. I just need to be on a Star Wars set at one point in my life. And I got to talk to the very lovely Ray Park, who plays Darth Maul, this weekend, and my son is just becoming obsessed with Darth Maul. So this is one of the things you were talking about, why we come to conventions. I'm a fan, like anybody else, and I've met so many cool people and had my picture taken with so many cool people, and Ray, no exception. And so in answer to your question whether a Jedi or a Sith, I think I'd want to be a Jedi because they're the goodie. Unlike Once Upon a Time, I don't know if the Sith get all the best lines, but funnily enough, my 2-year-old son is just obsessed with Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, and now Darth Maul. So I don't know what that says about what I'm going to be dealing with in about 14 years. Either way, you give me a lightsaber, I'm pretty happy, So hopefully they're going to keep making these movies, and if they keep making them and I live long enough, because I've got a British accent, I probably will be a villain. And I think I'm done growing, so maybe I could be a tall Ewok. But as I say, anything to do with Star Wars, I'd be there for free. Thank you.
So on the subject of fans and fandoms, you joined Once Upon a Time a few seasons in, and it's obviously already had a really strong fan following. And so I'm just wondering what that was like for you to kind of come into this thing that already had this big following and was like kind of probably different than another project you might have worked on.
It was and is very different from anything I've done in terms of the way the fans of the show react to it. I mean, I've been on TV since I was about 5 years old, and I've been on some big shows in the UK that I noticed I had relative obscurity, and then overnight with a show called EastEnders, I was very recognisable, and that changes your life a bit, you know, it changes your friends and your family's life, because you go out and you go, hey, there's that guy. And sometimes that's lovely, and most of the time people are really nice, but in England, people sometimes mistake seeing you on their TV twice a week for part of their living room, and as a result they kind of grab you by the arm and pull you over and say, my girlfriend likes you, or blah, 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 blah. Which is fine, but you know, you have to remember actors are actors, they're not part of your living room. So that is very different to the reaction to Once Upon a Time, where there's this incredibly powerful fandom. I think it's more like, almost like a boy band fandom. There's a real love and passion for the show, and it means a lot to people. It's a show I've heard from many people that it helped them get through difficult times, and so with that, kind of like a line from Spider-Man, with that responsibility, you know, with that power that it has, you have to be responsible, and I think that trying to be a voice for things that are positive, and you know, you can also be mindful of the fact that I am just me, sure, but to other people I'm Robin, and so if I go out and do something really stupid, it's not just me, the actor, that did something stupid, it's Robin Hood did. And so you've got to kind of take the responsibility of the show and its fandom.
And there's lots of kids that are fans too.
Exactly.
My daughters are big fans.
Yeah, I wouldn't want my kids when they get older, if they really kind of adore a show or something, to then see that person's gone out and done something really dumb. So if not already, you know, wise to the fact that going out and doing dumb things is dumb, this show sort of reminds you you've got a responsibility to other people. But along with the responsibility is also this amazing international sort of army of people that really support you and love you. And my wife and I travelled from, you know, Brazil to Spain to France to, you know, all over the world, and to get off a plane and have people waiting for you at an airport. It's really lovely, it's really touching, and it makes you feel, even though you're visiting a foreign land, that you're already welcome and, you know, you have friends there. So I've learned an awful lot from the fans of Once Upon a Time, and it's definitely made me very vigilant about what I say and what I do, and to try and be an example of something positive and not, you know, at times on Twitter, there's times that and I have done it sometimes, where I'm in a petulant mood where I say what I'm thinking, and then I realise, well, that's my view, not a lot of other people's view, and I've got to be kind of careful. But I also think there's a battle, because you also have to stand up for what's right, even if it's not popular. You have to sort of stand up for what you believe in. Even if some of the audience goes you wrong, you're like, well, for example, you know, the environment, or equal rights, or Black Lives Matter, or LGBT rights, things like that. You know, I've often spoken on those subjects, and people tell me I'm wrong, and I just feel very strongly that I'm not. I think equality is important for everybody, not just for a minority. So I'll continue to do that. Or just turn me off. That's the good thing about TV. You can just turn it off. You know? So thank you for watching.
Thank you. And we have time for one more question.
Oh, no pressure, right?
No. Better be good, bro.
Hi, Sean. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm a great fan of your work on Once Upon a Time. But I would also like to know a little bit about some of your current projects and things that we might see coming up.
Well, I've spent most of the last year or so. I'm a writer, or I should say I want to be a writer, because I'm yet to sell a project yet. But I have a project that I have co-written with a director partner that we're in the middle of developing, and then that'll be going out and pitching to networks and things. I've just shot a short movie, which is just about to start doing the rounds of festivals, and I just shot a feature film, which I just finished a couple of weeks ago, which is actually all going to be set in Oakland, just across the road, which is a really fun kind of comedy drama where I get to play a really, really horrible douchebag. So it was nice, it was a straight offer. It's almost as if they just thought of me when they met this character. So the movie Headshop, I think, is going to be out later this year, or it's going to be out at the beginning of next year. And there is another project that there's an animation project that my cousin has written that I'm in the middle of producing. And there's another project that we've just started with another writer in development. So I'm sort of going to be in the lab, kind of working on things, and I might not be popping up too often on screens for a little bit, because at this age, because I've been doing this since I was a child, I've been very keen to get behind the camera for a really long time. Because let's say, not to say that I'm not delighted with the way Once Upon a Time was written, but once you've been on, 20, 30 shows, you kind of go, I want to crack at storytelling. I want to tell the stories that I want to tell, and I'd love to run a set the way I want to run a set. And so it's a really exciting prospect, and I'm lucky I've got some very good partners who are far smarter than me. Always a good tip: marry up. Go with people, work with people that are much smarter, brighter, more talented than you, and you will always end up looking good. So there's a lot to come. Some of it might take a little bit longer to get to the screen than others, but I'm really excited about the future.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you've already said a lot of inspirational and wonderful words of wisdom. Is there anything else that you would like to part with today before you leave?
No, just be out. There is something actually. I kind of got a tweet yesterday from a girl who was in distress and was implying that she was about to take her own life. And obviously, the Once Upon a Time audience, we get a lot of people that have very strong emotions and feelings, and it's a wonderful part of the fandom that we were talking about earlier. But I do want to say, because when some of us address this on social media, it sometimes gives other people the opportunity to also express their feelings, which is great. But it's also, social media can be quite tricky, and sometimes somebody's not really ill or sick or super depressed. They just kind of want to get a message from their favourite actor. I understand that, that's perfectly fine. The problem is, as actors, we're not really qualified like counsellors and doctors to know each situation and to judge it on its merit. So I think we all have to be our own keeper, let's say, in the fact that if you know people that are struggling, if you see people on your Facebook page or on your Twitter or on your Instagram that are feeling this way, because it appears to me that a lot of young people are feeling very lost and confused at the moment, please direct them towards counsellors, to teachers, to the suicide hotlines, to all the people that are out there, because this is a big, big epidemic this country, around the world, that we're facing at the moment, and there's, in my opinion, almost nothing worse than a young person taking their own life, because the rest of us that are left behind just feel so hopeless that we didn't do anything to stop it. So if you know anybody out there that's feeling hopeless and feeling a bit lost, please try and treat them like their own family, and try and get them to somebody who can help them, because we can all just do a little bit, and maybe we can make those numbers go down a bit. Okay?
That was great. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's Adamic. Thanks for watching this video. San Francisco Comic-Con was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of people and shot a whole bunch of videos and pictures, which you can find here on YouTube and my Instagram, which is also ADAMICradio. I've got some cosplay stuff, including Pickle Rick, Pickle Rick, Rick and Morty, and Slash, plus Q&A panels for Doctor Who's Peter Capaldi, Emily Osment from Hannah Montana and Young and Hungry, Sean Maguire from Once Upon a Time, and Summer Glau from Firefly and the Sarah Connor Chronicles. So lots of stuff for you to check out. Please make sure to like, comment, and share my videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. It's the little ball in the bottom left corner. All those things bring up the hits, which makes it possible for me to make more videos for you. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.